notice things that are suspicious.
Welcome back to the Media Circus, the game show about the news game. And we start with the biggest news story of the week, a huge milestone for the nation.
Christmas is just 109 sleeps away.
In other news, apparently we have a new Prime Minister. After 54 Liberal Party MPs voted for Malcolm Turnbull, 44 voted for Abbott, while Senator Bill Heffernan, he just used his ballot to try and order 2 more bottles of wine. After being sworn in, Malcolm Turnbull celebrated with one of his key backers, Queensland MP Wyatt Roy. And Tony Abbott left the Prime Minister's office, but confirmed any holes he had punched into the walls had already been fixed.
I have rendered all.
Joining us on the Media Circus tonight are politics reporter from BuzzFeed, Alex Lee. Channel 10 journalist and newsreader Hugh Rimmington. And despite all the white anting, still not the host of The Weekly, Tom Gleeson. And they're up against hairspray enthusiast Andrew Hansen. From the Checkout, Ben Jenkins. And journalist and former Channel 7 newsreader Chris Barr. Now, it is good to have you here, Chris. This is not a news show, OK, so no swearing.
A Victorian man has pulled off a Tatslotto hat trick. The part-time lawnmower man must be the luckiest the country's luckiest person, rather, picking the winning numbers a third time.
OK, Ben, Andrew and Chris, this week you are Team Abbott.
Oh, I got a great feeling about this.
Yeah. And so Alex, Tom and Hugh, you are his natural predator, Team Turnbull. Yes. All right, and of course tonight we're under the watchful eye of our fact-checker, Chaz Licciardello.
Big week for fact-checking, Craig. Let me tell you, and I caught Malcolm Turnbull out on a doozy.
I'm very humbled by it. I'm very humbled.
No, he is not.
Thank you, Chaz. Now let's play the news game.
Stitch Up.
Here's how the game works. We've stitched together 3 stories from the week's news. Now, Team Turnbull, can you tell us what these stories are? Here's your Stitch Up.
This time yesterday, Tony Abbott was
found deep within a cave in a part of South Africa known as
London.
All right, Team Turnbull, what were the 3 stories there?
I just can't think of a story that involved Tony Abbott this week.
Yes, what happened?
What happened is that he was deposed in a spill.
Okay,
is that enough?
continue. What are the other stories?
I didn't really notice any other news except the spill in the last couple of days, so it's tricky. I didn't know there was other news. So the only thing I can think is number 2 was there was a man deep down in a cave who didn't know the spill happened.
In the cave was someone who didn't know that the spill had happened because they died about 2.8 million years ago.
Yes, it's close.
Researchers claim they've found evidence of a new species of one of man's earliest ancestors.
Yes, all of the specimens had a skinny frame and a brain the size of an orange, so scientists think it must have been the first fashion week. Does anyone know what the last story was? The last story was this week's very unfortunately timed publicity stunt by Channel 7's Sunrise program.
As Sunrise takes on 5 countries in 5 days.
Dubai.
London.
New York!
Niagara Falls and Cancun.
Yes, but not Canberra. On the morning after the biggest political story this year, Sunrise was in London. This PR fail made Natalie Barr so depressed that she almost took a cyanide pill.
My big decision now is, do I take a half or do I take a whole?
I think it was Cancun as well. What's like all these big London, New York, Cancun?
It's the American schoolies centre of the world.
What you're trying to say is that Koshi is a toolie. Is that what you're saying?
You never heard it from me.
Because well done. You got, I give you 1.5 out of 3. 1.5 out of 3. Well done, Team Turnbull. Okay, Team Abbott, it's your turn to play Stitch Up.
Well, for the first time in Australian history, the Prime Minister and the opposition leader both support
importing cocaine and laundering drug profits through
The Bee Gees at Redcliffe in Brisbane.
Team Abbott, what are the three stories there?
The Prime Minister and the opposition leader both support...
Knifing leaders in the future.
We're getting rid of Tony Abbott.
Yeah.
I think it is, for the first time, they both support gay marriage.
Yes. The first story was, for the first time in Australian history, the Prime Minister and the opposition leader both support gay marriage equality and the Republic and having an enormous forehead.
The second story, I think, was the series of drug arrests this week.
Yep. The second was a series of arrests connected to alleged drug importation. One of the people charged with perverting the course of justice, but no drug charges, was a music promoter responsible for bringing ZZ Top to Australia. And yes, that was written by the legal department. What's the last story?
Bee Gees were in the news. But did he bring the Bee Gees out?
No, Barry Gibb can't... You can't bring them all out, Dole. There's not too many left.
Well, you can bring out the...
Technically you could, but it'd be very unpleasant.
Oh, no!
So Barry Gibb was out?
He came to Brisbane, yeah. And went back to the street that he lived in, and there was some sort of museum or something like that.
Did he go back to the street he lived in? He was like, that's why I left. See ya.
And the last story was this.
The unveiling of a special tribute for the Bee Gees at Redcliffe in Brisbane.
Yes, plenty of fans of the Bee Gees were there, and so was one particularly big fan of reporter Phil Wilmington.
Let's go live now to Nine's Phil Wilmington. And Phil, Bee Gees fever has come to their hometown. What's the atmosphere like?
We're doing well. Deb,
Was that the last surviving Bee Gee?
Well done, Team Abbott. You got 2 out of 3. Congratulations.
Very good.
1.5.
That means you are the winner of Stitch Up. And as your reward, Chaz, what do you got for them?
We have an exclusive insight into what went on behind the scenes during the spill coverage, Craig.
Explains the challenges.
OK, Darren, I need you to start filming Turnbull now. He's halfway through his speech. Could you pick your camera up? Yes, good. Now, get a shot of Turnbull, please. No, don't film the journalist. Film Malcolm Turnbull. It's an important moment. Yes, better. But could you film the front of him? Get his face, not the back of his suit, Darren? Darren, are you listening? Darren, concentrate, please. No, we don't need any shots of birds. We need Turnbull. Go back to the new Prime Minister. Yes, good. Now, no, less birds, more Turnbull. Oh, for God's sake.
Taking people out of context for our own amusement.
I'm not going to join in this this orgy.
That was taking people out of context for our own amusement.
Bored of the news.
Moving on now, if you're bored of the news, you've got something in common with this next game. All of our questions in this round are behind these pictures here. Tony Abbott, Jeff Kennett, political reporter Karen Middleton, Malcolm Turnbull, the fake Aussie jihadist, and our home viewer, some guy with some meat. Our teams will take it in turn to pick a subject, but the questions are open to everyone. You can buzz in to answer it. Team Turnbull, your choice first for the board.
What do you think? Let's go with the lovely Karen Middleton.
Political reporter Karen Middleton. Who is she talking about here?
He's saying he wants to be a different kind of leader. He wants to be more consultative, not issuing edicts.
I reckon it's a little bit of a trick question because it sounds like she's talking about Turnbull, but I think she's actually talking about Abbott about a year ago.
OK, well, Tom didn't press his buzzer. Turnbull!
Funny thing about that is that Tom is, of course, right and said the correct answer, but when you stole it, you got it wrong, Ben.
Yeah. -1.
Jenkins! Even though it sounds exactly like what Turnbull said about Abbott this week, that SBS report is actually quotes Tony Abbott in 2009 after defeating Turnbull for the Liberal leadership.
He wants to be more consultative, not issuing edicts. Now, it was a bit of a whack there at Malcolm Turnbull.
It happens every challenge. Julia Gillard promised to be more consultative than Kevin Rudd, and when he came back, Rudd also promised to be more consultative than Kevin Rudd. OK, Team Abbott, what's your pick from the board?
Let's go Jeff Kennett.
OK, it's fair to say that former Victorian Premier Jeff Kennett wasn't exactly thrilled by Malcolm Turnbull's challenge. Can you complete Jeff's quote?
And when you merge Malcolm Turnbull's face into Kevin Rudd,
Excuse me.
You get Satan.
You get nightmares forever.
I just love the thought that when there's a leadership spill, the first thing Kennett does is he gets his phone out and starts merging people's faces.
I think if you do merge them together, I haven't seen this done, but I'd be interested to see the effect. I think you probably get an onion.
You get an onion. Let's see if you're right. This is what Kennett said.
And when you merge Malcolm Turnbull's face into Kevin Rudd's, they are the same people.
It's actually not true. We've actually tried merging their faces. And look at this. You get this kind of scary Scott Morrison. It's Scott Morrison! Scott Morrison! OK, our next pick of the board. Ooh, Chaz.
I have to say, Craig, that Kennett was one of Abbott's foremost defenders the other day, but I actually thought the person who didn't get enough credit was Joe Hockey, who gave an absolute barn burner speech defending Tony Abbott.
I'll just be making a statement and won't take questions. Okay.
Wow. That was one of his better ones, yes. Very
stirring stuff. Yeah.
He was actually, when he gave that statement, he was saying some stuff I wasn't listening because all I heard was, I want my job, I want my job, I want my job, I want my job, I want my job!
People on the actual broadcast were turning off. I mean, even on the Sky News panel, they were completely turning off.
Popular or unpopular, how is something not broken if this does happen? Graham? Sorry? No, that's all right.
To be fair, that was his 10th hour of covering that.
Yeah.
All right, our next pick of the board goes to Team Turnbull.
Let's get Mr. Abbott.
You've picked Tony Abbott, unlike your party. Now, can you complete this sentence from the 7 News Adelaide's coverage of the spill?
The leadership crisis stole the spotlight from Tony Abbott's...
Liz?
Ears.
Ears.
I mean, just not for nothing, but is that honestly the best picture they could find? Stole the spotlight from Tony's fundamental inability to smile.
Wasn't that either?
From the look of the actual picture, like trying to decode this, one of his many roads.
You're close. Yeah, he's standing in front of a road.
The leadership crisis stole the spotlight from Tony Abbott's major traffic announcement in Adelaide.
There you go, major traffic announcement in Adelaide. If only we'd known about that, he'd still be Prime Minister. Look, Abbott wasn't just concerned by that distraction. He had a bit of a hit against the media on his way out.
And if there's one piece of advice I can give to the media, it's this. Refuse to print self-serving claims that the person making them won't put his or her name to.
Journalist, do you think he has a point, and do you think it'll ever happen?
It's utterly self-serving. I'm sorry, but history rolls round and around. I was there when the campaign was there to pull down Malcolm Turnbull, and politicians in the Liberal Party and the Conservative side of the Liberal Party were briefing freely against Malcolm Turnbull to destroy him. And he was the beneficiary of it.
I actually think it's a good point that he made. Maybe because no one leaks to me. But...
Alex is now a Canberra reporter from BuzzFeed. Leaked to her.
Ministers, if you're out there, please, I really need this.
She will find the best gift to communicate that leak.
Do they come to you with gifts ready-made if they do leak?
No, well, politicians trying to make things for the internet is the worst thing ever. Sometimes they call you up and they're like, I've got a BuzzFeed for you, and you're like, no, you don't.
Look, surely it's a bit much for Abbott to be blaming the media when he's got such strange messages. I mean, did you hear what his last request was after he got defeated? It's just ridiculous.
The last thing I want to do is to have a Vegemite watch.
It's just weird. How are they supposed to report that?
OK, Team Abbott, what's your pick from the board?
Oh, let's go Turnbull.
OK, not even Team Abbott wants Tony Abbott. What biblical figure was Malcolm Turnbull publicly compared to this week?
Wasn't he eaten by a whale?
I think it was God, but that was coming from Malcolm.
That was one of the things. But let's have a listen to the Gospel according to Alan Jones on Talkback Radio the morning after the spill.
Just one word for Malcolm Turnbull. Judas.
Judas, people not happy.
If Turnbull is Judas, then according to Alan Jones, Tony Abbott is Jesus Christ, I think.
I'm very, very glad that he isn't Jesus, because that'd mean he's coming back. Thank God.
Actually, Turnbull was also compared to Jesus on Sky News. And if he is Jesus, I think we know whose water he's been turning into wine.
He's actually a winner in the reshuffle. I've got an inside gossip on this. It's officially not coming out till Monday, but Bill Heffernan is the new Minister for Dishevelment.
Yeah.
It's a big job in Parliament.
Yeah. OK, Team Abbott, what's your pick from the board?
Look, I think we're going to go the man with the meat. Man.
OK, the man with the meat. This guy is from a real news story. It's one of those strange but true odd spot pieces that newsreaders have to read with a straight face. They're the subject of our next game, Faking News. Our professional newsreaders will read 3 headlines based on an image. Teams, see if you can guess which story is the true one and which headlines are faking news. Over to you, Hugh.
Tonight, a man risks his life to save barbecue ribs from a house fire.
Tonight, a man fends off a home intruder with a spicy rack of lamb.
Tonight, community outrage after a man offers grilled meats to trick-or-treating children.
All right, which one do you think is the real news story?
Well, I actually know the answer, so...
Oh, sorry, it's a BuzzFeed story, of course, yeah.
Say the answer then.
Number 1, he did run back in to get a rack of lamb, but his family were fine.
Let's have a look.
I got my kids first day I got my kids, and I thought about my ribs, like I ain't gonna let my ribs burn and stuff, because I take pride in what I do, man. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning, I was hungry, man. Enjoy this barbecue though, man. Have a good night, man.
Well done, Team Abbott. OK, our next story is based on...
I love that he's holding up the ribs, not the kids.
OK, our next story is based on this image. Take it away, Chris.
Tonight, a daycare fills with... I can't even read the autocue. Where is it?
Nice.
Oh, OK.
Just say you'll be fine.
Tonight, a daycare fills with spiders after a child brings in a nest for show and tell.
I always wanted to say on the telly, so there it is. It's off the bucket list. Tonight, daycare workers accused of staging a fight club with kids.
Tonight, daycare workers locked inside a storage room after children stage a revolt. Didn't that happen on Monday?
All right. Team Turnbull, which story do you think's true?
I feel like the nest of spiders is the most believable one.
What about you, Team Abbott?
I can imagine kids staging a revolt.
Yeah. Let's see if you're right.
Disturbing allegations against 2 daycare workers this morning.
Yep, they're accused of running a kiddie fight club.
To be fair, though, that story never would have got to the news if the kids just followed the first rule of childcare fight club. Well done, Chris and Hugh. At the end of the round, I think it was a draw. Guys, what do you got as a reward for them?
Yep, it's Alan Jones's impersonation of Tony Abbott.
And he'd simply say, if he was talking you now, he'd say, Alan, well, Alan, that's the process, Alan, and I've got to accept the process.
O is for outrage.
An effective media outrage should be targeted at a truly evil villain, like, for example, cyclists.
There were cyclists weaving in and out of lanes, going through red lights.
This is lycra lunacy. What is your attitude to cyclists on our roads?
Cockroaches on wheels. The true outrage doesn't only come from people riding bicycles. Any enterprising network can turn an innocuous story like this.
The introduction of a smoking ban at all prisons across New South Wales today has passed peacefully.
Into an outrage.
Well, the state government has defended the use of taxpayers' money to help rapists and murderers, among others, to quit smoking. You're paying for the patches to help criminals get healthier and live longer.
Outrageous! You don't even need need to be consistent. You can be outraged about parents.
What do you pay your kids? How much? You're spoiling them. Come on, helicopter parents. You can't bribe your kids. They've got to do chores.
And then be outraged about people who are outraged about parents.
Why does everyone feel as though they have the right to comment on somebody else's?
Because they've got to fill up the pages of these stupid newspapers.
I've got a right to tell you what I think is right and wrong with your life. Well, butt out.
But not everyone can do outrage. Your opponents, of course, only do confected outrage.
And it's confected outrage over nothing, over a poorly worded press release. And this is absolute nonsense that I think just shows up the poor side of, the left side of politics in Australia. If they have to confect stuff like this over nothing, and they do it again and again.
But your outrage about them is very, very real.
But more seriously, the ABC this week has screened a tweet, Janet, during Q&A saying Tony Abbott loved anal sex.
Your opponent's excuses are equally unconvincing. Like the ABC saying that comment got past their moderators because of sheer carelessness through pressure of work. Oh, sorry, that was Bolt apologising for homophobic comments getting past his blog moderators in 2009. Sorry about that mix-up. It was just sheer carelessness through pressure of work.
I actually don't think it's a mistake. I think this kind of stuff is deliberate.
Damn it, she caught me out. So enjoy your outrage now, because it won't be long until everyone moves on.
That's outrageous!
Yesterday's news.
Time now for some archival footage we don't have to pay for. Yesterday's news is the game where we look back at the news from history on this day, the 17th of September. Anyone can buzz in if you know the answer. What was this 1995 news story about?
Could a man who's just been raised to the status of paramount chief of the Kokoda people really be regarded as anything less among his own?
See, I get the me buzzer.
I think it just knows to bleep you out in advance.
Yes, Hugh.
Paul Keating, then the Prime Minister, had a very keen eye for architecture. And when he went to see our friends in Papua New Guinea, he thought he'd bring along a model that he'd made at home of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And he put it on his head in order to impress the locals.
None of them are wearing it. They're all just wearing suits. They must be pissing themselves.
Yeah. And he knew that it was an amazing thing, and when he flew back in, he would just get to chuck it in the quarantine bin. Yeah, thanks, guys.
I had a mate who lived near Howard, right, when he lived in sort of like Sydney, Wollstonecraft area. And I guess as PM, you just accrue so many diplomatic gifts. And he once, out the front of Howard's house, for like council cleanup, saw this like shield from the people of Tonga.
It'd be great to be at council clean-up outside Buckingham Palace. Imagine what you get there. The old Liz shoving it all out.
Yeah, no, you'd find a nation there. Oh, yeah, we don't need that anymore.
Even though it used footage of Keating's trip to PNG, this story was actually about leadership rumblings of a possible challenge to Labor PM Paul Keating by Deputy PM Kim Beazley.
The Prime Minister has been told of the rumblings, said to have centred on the possibility of replacing Mr Keating with Kim Beazley.
The rumblings just turned out to be the fact that Kim Beazley hadn't been fed that day.
Yeah, do the numbers. Yeah, calorie counting. Yeah.
Now, your reward is this clip from 1985 when Geraldine Doogue was reading the news for much longer than she would have liked.
And Peter Couchman caught up with him there. This moment. Yep. Right, thanks very much. We are coming back to Peter Couchman's story, though. Right, thanks. Well, I'm sorry about that. We will have to come back to that story from Peter Couchman, and it is well worth waiting for. I've been reliably informed. So we'll move on to one of our other stories now. Victoria and New South Wales. Opera. Yes, OK. Well, we will move on to one of our other stories now, but it's about the opera. Our mental health story will come later too. To the fate of... Oh, really? Yes. All right. Right, well, Changi is now ready. We will now go to Peter Couchman's interview with George Aspinall.
Chris, does that bring up any memories for you guys?
Oh, I've got PTSD just looking at that. We've all been there. I mean, most people have, but, you know, you're live on air. And I remember I burped on air. Like, you know, you had the music. Ba, 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 ba. I go to say good evening, but instead of good evening, there's a burp. And it's thick and it's rich. Yeah, that for me was the worst moment.
You could have doubled down with a fart.
In one of his last interviews as Prime Minister, Tony Abbott had this simple and inspiring message for the ABC.
I refuse to talk our country down, and I hope the national broadcaster might join me in looking for the good and boosting our country, which has so much potential.
And we can't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, if we'd been more positive about this great nation of ours, Abbott might still be Prime Minister. So, to honour the final wishes of this relentlessly positive man, it's time to talk up Australia. OK, here's how the game works. Chris and Hugh will read out a negative story about Australia.
I won't do it.
We're not used to that.
Yeah. You will read out a negative story about this country, and then Tom and Ben, your job is to focus on the good, okay? All right, Chris, take us away.
The Australian dollar fell again today. Some experts say it could drop to 66 cents by the end of the year, which is why every contract I sign from now on, when I finally get another job, will be paid in pounds sterling. Sorry.
But to focus on the positive, it suddenly became a lot more expensive to go fight for ISIS.
Yeah. All right, takes away Hugh.
Hundreds of...
Sorry, I was just thrown. I think with this camera, just had to get ready.
Oh, with this camera?
I think so. Yeah, you follow the red light. That's how it works in television, Hugh.
Take it away, Hugh.
And Jared Haynes' first game in the NFL has not gone according to plan after he dropped his first catch.
But the good news is he's been selected for the Australian cricket team.
All right, Chris.
Okay. Australia's escalating house prices continue to push young people out of the market.
But if we could just focus on the good here, I get on really well with my parents.
I think we've got one more story.
Tony Abbott has been ousted as Prime Minister after just 725 days in office.
But the good news is he's been reunited with the place where he got all these ideas from. History.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give it to Team Turnbull. We got a reward from them there, Chaz?
As your reward, you get to see the very best of Liberals trying to be positive over the last few weeks and trying to pretend there were no leadership issues.
What's the mood in the ministry in relation to Tony Abbott's leadership, as you say?
Upbeat.
Upbeat?
Upbeat.
No issues at all?
Upbeat and positive, just like me.
He's a great leader of a good team, and we're all good team players.
Would you be happy to have Mr Abbott campaigning in the next week or so?
Look, the Prime Minister's doing a tough job, and...
Even if he's by your side?
Look, I'm more than happy to have the support of my party.
And the Prime Minister, would you have Mr Abbott here? Happy to have him?
I'm here for the people of Canada.
He's the leader of the party.
Absolutely, he's the leader of the party.
And you'd be happy to have him campaigning with you?
Absolutely. Why not?
Behind the scenes with Sky News.
Jobs, growth and community safety.
OK, that's a nice shot of the Prime Minister there, Darren. Good. Now zoom out so we can see the other guy.
So as the Prime Minister has just announced, there's been 13 successful projects.
Oh, no, he's as boring as batshit. Zoom back into the Prime Minister, Darren. No, I mean on his face, not his groin.
On behalf of Greening Australia.
Yes, that's better. Now cut to another angle. Darren, what is it with you and groins? Just no, not the other man's groin. For God's sake, frame up a nicer shot, can't you? You've got the Prime Minister of Australia. He's speaking light. No, you're just filming more groins, Darren. The police are coming. Can you get out of there? Just get out of there when you can. Get out!
Lesson 72. Breaking news is when an important story breaks during your bulletin. 9 News, you try.
Now to some breaking news. An emergency is unfolding on the New South Wales south coast.
Very good. SBS.
We have some breaking news for you now, and South Korea's defence ministry says it has fired artillery rounds towards North Korea.
Correct. Channel 10, do you have some vitally important breaking news?
We have some breaking news for you. Have you seen this bird?
Fail, Channel 10.
Photo finish. Yes, our last round this week is photo finish. Let's see if you can answer the questions about photographs from this week in politics. Hands on buzzers. Let's begin. What is Malcolm Turnbull doing here?
He's comparing Kirribilli House to his house.
I think he's saying, Tony, these are the amounts of shits I give about you.
Yes, Andrew.
To me, it looks like he's doing his best Robert De Niro impression. You talking to me? You talking to me?
Okay, you're all wrong. Let's continue. Why is Bill Shorten frowning?
Because he is Bill Shorten.
He's doing his best impression of Grumpy Cat.
Yes, he does the one.
He does.
What is Tony Abbott doing here?
He's going...
He's waiting for Scott Morrison to tell him where the microphone is.
This is the only way they can...
He's just going around interrupting people's weddings, telling them that he stopped the boats.
Wait 1 second. Is this on?
All right, let's keep going. What's Christopher Pine doing?
The Macarena.
All right, what is Julie Bishop doing in this photo?
Holding the blood in.
All right, what is Joe Hockey thinking in this photo?
I'm sick of lifting. Time to do some leaning.
Barnaby Joyce has gone zombie again.
Okay, what is Malcolm Turnbull thinking here in his first question time as Prime Minister?
You're thinking, I've got so much money, it doesn't matter how badly this goes.
How's my poker face going?
Yeah. He didn't really hold the smug in long, did he?
He definitely just farted on Joe Hockey. Look at his...
All right, and finally, these are Tony Abbott's speech notes. What did he cross out?
Anything that wasn't a three-word slogan.
And I would have succeeded if it weren't for you meddling kids.
Well done, everyone, but the winner tonight, and this will be a consolation for losing the Prime Ministership, is Team Abbott! And to celebrate, we'll leave you tonight with the moment the former Prime Minister Tony Abbott won all of our hearts. Thank you.
You're not saying anything, Tony. I've given you the response you deserve. What's the context, though? If it's not... I've listened to all the tapes. There's 3 camera angles of that discussion. Are you saying it's not about McKinney, about that operation? What is the right context? I'm asking you. Can I ask you how it's been taken out of context? No. Nothing else to say, Tony? Okay. Just turn your cameras off.